Living a simpler, slower life sounds peaceful, doesn't it? But simplifying life takes effort, and sometimes it can be a real challenge. Today, I'm sharing the 5 things I quit to simplify my life, along with real moments where I've struggled and failed, but kept trying. Just last month, I decided to sort through our kitchen drawers and cabinets because the clutter has been getting a little out of hand. At first, I felt accomplished letting go of things I hadn't used in years. But a week later, I found myself justifying why I should keep a few items I didn't need and buy more bins instead of getting rid of excess stuff. It's easy to fall back into old habits, but I try to focus on the benefits of less clutter. More space, less stress, and easier decision making. I also try not to get overboard with decluttering, or I might end up discarding things I actually need. I am recognizing that decluttering is not a one-time task, but an ongoing process. Letting go of the past is one of my toughest challenges. There are days when I catch myself replaying old conversations, revisiting old wounds and traumas, wondering why they had to happen or what I could have done differently. Just recently, for example, I was beating myself up all over again because of a mistake that I made years ago. It's something so trivial now, and the other person has already moved on. But to me, it still stung. It's not easy to break this habit of revisiting the past, but I try to remind myself the past cannot change, but the present mindset can. When those thoughts arise, I pause, take a deep breath, and tell myself to focus on what I can do today. I'm not perfect at it, but even small steps towards letting go make my days lighter. Perfectionism has been a lifelong struggle for me. I always wanted to be perfect, to be loved and accepted by others. The perfect daughter, the perfect wife, the perfect mom, the perfect everything. But this tendency to set super high standards for myself was the very reason I never found peace within. For example, I would spend hours fixing tiny imperfections in my work. So instead of feeling accomplished and being done for the day, I would end up feeling exhausted and resentful. And in my personal life, I would try so hard to meet everyone's expectations that I would neglect my own needs entirely. But the truth is, perfection is an illusion. No one has it all together, no matter how polished their life may look from the outside. I have learned slowly and painfully that striving for perfection only robs us of joy in the present. These patterns are hard to break, and they still creep in from time to time. But every time I choose self-compassion over self-criticism, I take another step towards peace. Being kinder to myself doesn't mean I don't strive for growth. It just means I approach life with more grace instead of chasing an impossible standard. Setting boundaries is something I'm still learning. For example, last weekend, I promised myself a work-free Sunday. But there I was, sitting at a cafe with my husband, and instead of soaking in the moment, I caught myself thinking about my YouTube channel, planning ideas, mentally tweaking scripts, and squeezing in some filming. And honestly, it made me feel a little disappointed in myself. I thought I had to be great at setting boundaries and slowing down, especially since that's what I talk about in this channel. But the truth is, I'm still learning and still stumbling. Maybe you've been there too, when work emails creep into your evenings, or when you feel like you have to say yes to everything, even when you're running on empty. We all have those moments where we wish we were better at setting boundaries. This happens more often than I'd like, but I'm working on it. I still slip up, but I've been setting firmer boundaries and holding myself accountable instead of making excuses all the time. Walking away from unhealthy relationships is never easy, and it's something I've struggled with for years. There was a friendship I ended because it felt one-sided. I was always giving more of myself while receiving very little, sometimes nothing in return. Even after cutting ties, I couldn't help but second guess my choice. Sometimes, seeing something that reminds me of that person stirs up those feelings again. But then I recall how that relationship left me emotionally drained and unvalued. It reminds me of a quote: "An unhealthy relationship is like standing on broken glass. If you stay, you will keep hurting. If you walk away, you will hurt, but eventually you will heal." Letting go of relationships like these isn't just about simplifying life. It's about self-respect. It's recognizing that prioritizing peace and mutual care is something we need to do, even when it feels uncomfortable or when doubt starts to creep in. Simplifying life is not about achieving perfection. It's about trying, failing, and trying again. These struggles have taught me resilience, intentionality, and how to focus on what truly matters. What about you? What's one thing you quit or want to quit to simplify your life? I look forward to hearing from you in the comments soon. Thank you for sharing this time with me and wishing you peace and clarity in your journey towards a slow and simple lifestyle.